Good day everyone. In this class, we'll be answering past paper questions JAMB from 2013 to 2020 on the topic of vectors and scalars. The first question that we have on the screen is, the pair of physical quantities that are scalar only are A. Volume and area, B. Moment and momentum, C. Length and displacement, D. Impulse and time. So let's start by the first option. Volume is a scalar quantity. Area is also a scalar quantity. So this fulfills the condition or criteria that is given in the question. But for us to reassure ourselves that this is the correct answer, let's make sure that the other options are wrong. The second option is moment and momentum. Moment is a vector quantity, as you may be aware of moment. Moment is the force that's applied, perpendicular force that is applied to a lever or a rod. So this is the distance and the force. So since you have force in it, this also tells you that it should be a vector, even though the distance is a scalar itself. But moment is a vector. Momentum is also a vector because momentum is given by P equals mass times velocity. So there's direction associated with it. Length is a scalar. Displacement is a vector. This does not fulfill the criteria because length is a scalar, but displacement is not. And then the last is impulse. Impulse is also a vector quantity. Time is a scalar quantity. So the best option that we have is option A. A quantity which requires magnitude and direction to be specified is... Now, you need to know that this question is giving you the definition of a vector because it says a quantity that requires magnitude and direction, and this defines what a scalar is. Vector. So this is a vector definition. So your answer, the quantity, has to be a vector. So let's see from the options which of the quantities is a vector. The first quantity on the screen is temperature. Temperature is not a vector because there is no direction specified or associated with it. Distance is also not a vector. It's a scalar because distance just has a magnitude. Displacement is a vector as it is distance along with or associated with direction. So this is the difference between distance and displacement. Displacement is also a distance, but then there is a direction that is associated with it. The last is mass. Mass is also a scalar because there's no any direction that is associated with it. But you have to be careful between mass and weight. Mass is a scalar while weight is a vector. We've explained this in the lecture lessons under the chapter Vectors and Scalars. A vector quantity can only be completely described when dash and dash are mentioned. So this question wants you to fill in the two blank spaces. A vector quantity, as you may recall, is a quantity that is given both its magnitude and direction. So let's now look at the options and see where we are given magnitude and direction. The first option says magnitude and motion. This doesn't make sense. Magnitude and direction is this matches what we've mentioned. Distance and specified displacement, this also doesn't make any sense because this is very much specific. You are not asked about the different types of quantities that come under vector quantity. You are actually asked to look at for the general definition of a vector quantity. And then the last one is moment and momentum. Even though this fulfills the criteria of what a vector is, it's not what the question is asking you to find. So the correct option is option B. Electrical potential, torque, kinetic energy, and momentum. Which of the quantities listed are vectors? So let's start by looking at the different quantities that were given. The first one is electrical potential. This one, electric potential, is a scalar. You can tell from the word potential, just like you have in potential energy. So this is due to, has nothing to do with direction. So electric potential is a scalar, so we'll cancel it out. So any option that has 1, because this is the first Roman numeral 1, I, then it cannot be the answer. So this can't be the answer. This can also not be the answer. So B and C cannot be the answer. The next is torque. That's a scalar vector quantity, because torque is the same as moment of force. Moment of force. So the likely answer will be 2. This can be the answer. This can also be the answer. Let's check. Kinetic energy. And then the last one is momentum. Momentum. So according to the options here, it's either kinetic energy or momentum. You can tell it's only momentum is also a vector quantity. So the best answer would be A. Option A. Which of the following is a scalar quantity? A. Tension. B. Weight. C. Impulse. D. Mass. Tension is a force, so it has to be a vector quantity. Weight is also a force and it's a vector quantity. Impulse is a vector quantity. The correct option would be mass. Option D. So as we've come to the end of this lesson, you'll notice that most of the questions that appeared from 2013 to 2017 revolve around identifying which of the quantities is a scalar or a vector. This is actually a very simple, these set of questions are very simple. It's just for you to have a look at the different past paper questions, and we might make some recordings that involve questions where you have to add and subtract or divide and multiply vectors, different vectors. Thank you for joining this lesson, and see you in the next class.